As tensions rise in the Middle East, the U.S. Army faces growing confusion, while Trump called Secretary of State Marco Rubio a liar over his remarks. Rubio admitted a major weakness in U.S. missile defenses, noting America has only 6 or 7 missiles compared to Iran's reported 100.
They are producing, by some estimates, over 100 of these missiles a month. Compare that to the 6 or 7 interceptors that can be built a month. They can build 100 of these a month, not to mention the thousands of one-way attack drones that they also have. They've been doing this for a very long time, and by the way, they've been doing it under sanction.
Hours later, Trump claimed the United States now holds record stockpiles of munitions, presenting a stark contrast to Rubio's warning. Before the conflict, the top U.S. general had already warned about a missile shortage, signaling vulnerabilities in defense planning. Trump insisted the U.S. could fight the war indefinitely, while Netanyahu called for a swift resolution to avoid prolonged conflict.
I hear the people are saying, well, you're going to have an endless war here. You're not going to have an endless war. Now, of course, it's up to the people of Iran in the final count to change the government. But we are creating, America and Israel together are creating the conditions for them to do so.
Confusion appears to be gripping the Trump administration as Iran defiantly refuses to back down, leaving Washington struggling to project control and clarity amid mounting regional tensions and diplomatic uncertainty. With U.S. bases and embassies under fire across the Middle East, reports confirm that Washington has already lost at least 6 American troops, raising fears of a broader escalation and intensifying domestic pressure on the White House. As the war intensifies and global concern deepens, President Trump announced on March 2 that America's munition stockpiles have reached their highest levels in history, signaling continued confidence in the nation's military readiness. Trump further asserted that the United States possessed what he called a virtually unlimited supply of medium and upper medium-grade weapons, describing the country's arsenal as fully capable of sustaining extended combat operations if necessary. Trump said, quote, "The United States munition stockpiles have, at the medium and upper medium grade, never been higher or better. As was stated to me today, we have a virtually unlimited supply of these weapons. Wars can be fought forever, and very successfully, using just these supplies, which are better than other countries' finest arms. At the highest end, we have a good supply, but are not where we want to be. Much additional high-grade weaponry is stored for us in outlying countries. Sleepy Joe Biden spent all of his time, and our country's money, giving everything to P.T. Barnum, Zelensky, of Ukraine, hundreds of billions of dollars worth. And, while he gave so much of the super high-end away, free, he didn't bother to replace it. Fortunately, I rebuilt the military in my first term, and continue to do so. The United States is stocked, and ready to win, big. Thank you for your attention to this matter." Unquote. Yet, just hours before Trump's statement, the U.S. Secretary of State had issued a sobering assessment, warning of a stark mismatch between American and Iranian missile production capacities, an imbalance that could reshape the trajectory of this conflict.
To the Pentagon and the Department of War to discuss the tactics behind that and the progress that's being made. That is the clear objective of this mission. The second question that's been asked is, why now? Well, there's 2 reasons why now. The first is it was abundantly clear that if Iran came under attack by anyone, the United States or Israel or anyone, they were going to respond and respond against the United States. The orders had been delegated down to the field commanders. It was automatic, and in fact it bared to be true, because in fact within an hour of the initial attack on the leadership compound, the missile forces in the south and in the north, for that matter, had already been activated to launch. In fact, those had already been pre-positioned. The third is the assessment that was made that if we stood and waited for that attack to come first before we hit them, we would suffer much higher casualties. And so the President made the very wise decision. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed. And then we would all be here answering questions about why we knew that and didn't act. Going back to the purpose. The purpose of this is to destroy that missile capability. Why does Iran want that ballistic missile capability? What they are trying to do, and have been trying to do for a very long time, is build a conventional weapons capability as a shield where it can hide behind. Meaning, there would come a point where they have so many conventional missiles, so many drones, and it can inflict so much damage that no one can do anything about their nuclear program. That is what they were trying to do. is put themselves in a place of immunity where the damage they could inflict on the region would be so high that no one can do anything about their nuclear program or their nuclear ambitions. They are producing, by some estimates, over 100 of these missiles a month. Compare that to the 6 or 7 interceptors that can be built a month. They can build 100 of these a month, not to mention the thousands of one-way attack drones that they also have. They've been doing this for a very long time, and by the way, they've been doing it under sanction. You see the attacks they're conducting right now? They're attacking airports, they're attacking hotels, they're hitting not just military bases, they're attacking our embassies directly, they're attacking facilities that have nothing to do with war or with military, and that's a weakened Iran. That's in Iran despite years of sanction. Imagine a year from now, or a year and a half from now, the capabilities they would have to inflict damage on us. It's an unacceptable risk, especially in the hands of a regime that's run by radical clerics.
Trump's declaration came just days after the dramatic killing of Iran's supreme leader in a targeted strike, an event that sent shockwaves across the region and pushed Middle East tensions to their breaking point. On February 28th, the United States and Israel launched a coordinated joint operation, striking a series of high-value Iranian military and intelligence targets in what analysts describe as one of the most audacious moves in recent years. Tehran responded with swift and forceful retaliation, hitting U.S. bases spread across America's ally nations, including Kuwait, Bahrain, the UAE, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia, signaling that no regional foothold was beyond Iran's reach. By March 3rd, Washington had officially confirmed that at least 6 American soldiers were killed in the Iranian attacks, marking one of the deadliest episodes since hostilities reignited between the two powers. In a separate blow, the U.S. military admitted losing 3 fighter jets to what it described as friendly fire from allied Kuwaiti forces on March 2nd, though Pentagon officials emphasized that all crew members had survived safely. However, Iran countered those claims, insisting that its own defense systems were responsible for shooting down the jets and accusing Washington of concealing the true cause to avoid embarrassment before its allies. Before the outbreak of war, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff had privately cautioned President Trump against entering into a full-scale conflict with Iran, warning that the costs and consequences could spiral far beyond initial estimates. According to a detailed Wall Street Journal report, General Kaine had told Trump that any offensive strike on Iran would come with significant strategic and economic repercussions, potentially stretching American resources to dangerous levels. Kaine's warning, sources say, specifically pointed to the severe depletion of U.S. munitions and critical weapons stockpiles, a problem that military planners had been quietly flagging for months before the crisis escalated. The general further noted that a prolonged confrontation could force the U.S. to expend enormous quantities of air defense munitions, many of which were already in short supply and could not be quickly replenished. Kaine also cautioned that such depletion would directly weaken America's preparedness to face other global rivals, particularly China, by limiting the nation's ability to sustain combat in multiple theaters simultaneously. In response, Trump dismissed the reports as fake, insisting that General Kaine fully shared his confidence that the United States would prevail decisively in any conflict, no matter how long it lasted.